Hi, welcome back to the Montana Real Estate channel. If you're not a subscriber, you might want to tap that little logo down there on the lower right-hand side of your screen so you're notified whenever we come out with a video on real estate in Montana, whether it's communities, price points, or services that go into buying and selling property. I'm Craig Cyphers, and I'm with Cyphers Family Real Estate. My family and I have been helping folks move around Montana and into the state of Montana since 1966. And today we're going to focus on title. And I have Cindy Brown and Tammy Pauley. And they're going to discuss with us what's going on with title. So let's dive right in. Hello.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you, ladies, for spending some time with me and talking to me. What does title insurance mean? What is it?
Good question, because a lot of folks don't know the answer to that question. And as you and I know, it's imperative to have. So title insurance, the nuts and the bolts of it, go ahead, Cindy.
Protects your rights when you buy real estate, real property.
So things like access, it'll show you easements, all things that are of public record. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay, but there's some exceptions in title insurance, right? But those exceptions are in fact those items that are of record.
Correct.
Okay. So what that fundamentally means is that if the clerk and recorder has that information on file, then you've been notified of those elements, and you're not insured for that. I mean,
we are notified daily with documents that have been recorded, and we complete our plan daily, indexing it by name, legal description, and address.
okay. So when we buy title insurance, and what happens is that the sellers typically
Correct.
pay for insurance for the buyer. Is that
Correct.
how that works?
It's typical in the state of Montana for the seller to purchase that title policy. It's always based on the purchase price.
Mm-hmm.
It's a one-time premium that runs with the property as long as those new buyers coming in own that property, and it will protect them up to the purchase price with their policy. And yes, the sellers usually pay for that. It could be negotiated in your buy-sale or your contract,
Sure.
but typically the sellers pay for that policy.
Okay, and we also have a number of different. What are they? I mean, I'm from an old insurance background. I should know what I'm trying to say. Where you have add-ons, there are
Endorsements.
endorsements. We have endorsements. Talk to me a little bit about endorsements, because because people don't know anything about title insurance, and we don't really spend an awful lot of time talking about it. They get a title commitment at the time as buyers to review and see those exceptions and some of the language. But I would say the vast majority of buyers have no idea, and well, I'm not so sure the real estate community does either. And so you have there's a standardized
Correct.
form.
It's the 2021 ALTA
ALTA,
policy.
okay,
American
ALTA.
Land Title Association policy. One
Okay.
thing about title insurance you need to remember, it insures in the past. So past, it doesn't.
Activity.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't insure into the future. There is some endorsements that can
Okay.
and will in different type policies that may give you some more coverages.
Okay.
Endorsements are like an add-on endorsement. If it's commercial property, a lot of the endorsements that are asked for is the same as survey one. Make sure that they have access. The access is a series of endorsements. A lot of the endorsement we get asked for a lot is when you buy it as an individual, maybe you get married and you're now adding your spouse. There is an endorsement for that, but that is actually another item that is in the 2021 policy and the 2016 policy, which was, there's a clause, and I can't remember the exact location on your policy jacket for that.
But it's in the standard?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's for estate planning, it
I
is
see.
usually covered. Now, if you're switching from your individual to an LLC,
Right.
no, it's probably not covered because that's not estate planning, and you should probably ask for that endorsement.
Interesting. Well, those are interesting points. So, when somebody's buying a piece of property and or they own it, they may want to go back to a title company for certain coverages and endorsements that they wouldn't otherwise have known about to protect the family going forward. Is that-
Absolutely, and especially if they've done a change in vesting. So if it's been in
Mhm.
one name, and if it changes into any other names for vesting, then I would absolutely check to make sure that you have the correct endorsements to cover the change in vesting.
And so that would, of course, be things like quitclaims deeds
Mhm.
and that sort of thing, which is very common out there. And a lot of people don't even bother with title when they do that.
Right.
They'll just have a quitclaim deed, and they'll take it down to the clerk and recorders, and boom. And at that moment in time, what happens to our title policy that was issued prior to when there was, let's say, a previous sale?
It could actually null and void that prior policy.
Interesting point, and something I don't think a lot of people know about. The bank also gets a lender's endorsement.
The lenders get their own policy,
They
and
get
it's
their own
strictly
policy.
for the lender.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's paid for by the buyer.
Right.
So if the buyer is purchasing a home or a property and they're securing a loan, then they are going to be the ones paying for that for the lender, and that's always based on the loan amount.
Right. Right. Loan amount as opposed to the purchase price.
Correct.
So if somebody got 50% down, the bank's half as much as the purchaser.
Correct.
Okay. What things do you think would be most important for the layperson to know about title insurance?
So many things, but I will tell you, when we issue two policies on one transaction, both the policies, that the second policy comes in at a reduced rate.
The simultaneous issue.
So where, let's say the seller is going to pay $1,200 for the policy for a buyer coming in purchasing a property at $500,000,
Mm-hmm.
and then the buyer's coming in and purchasing or getting their loan at $450,000.
Okay.
Their policy could only be $500-600. So those are just ballpark figures, but it's always reduced when we issue two policies on the same transaction.
And potentially, for example, for those who are developers or builders, and I'm talking to the choir here because most of those people do get and have some sort of discount for multiple transactions. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, we are a rate filed state.
Okay,
So the state of Montana, every major underwriter files their rates with the state of Montana, and yes, they do have discounts for certain aspects, like a developer rate,
Right. Okay.
A reissue credit, that property has been sold within 3 years.
Okay.
Things like that,
I
yes.
gotcha. So a reissue credit, well, let's talk about that for a second. So if I buy a property, and my seller, the person I buy it from, provides me with a title policy from Flying Ass Title, that's who we're talking to, by the way, sorry about that. And I sell it 3 years from now, it's potentially, I'm
Adds a
just gonna
credit.
have a
Yes,
premium.
and it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be issued by us. We just need to know that there was an
It's-
owner's policy
God,
issued.
okay, that's interesting, because see, I did not know that. Feel like Johnny Carson now. I did not know that. Now, if you have questions about title, and this is confusing, and is probably not going to be a viral video. We just understand that. I mean, it's not going to, well,
Sure.
it's just not going to be, somebody's just scrolling through and going, I got to see the thumbnail on this. This is
Right.
going to be too good not
Tantalizing.
to watch. But it's important, and it's in fact, it's part of every deal. And if anybody suggests that you do a transfer of property without going through the title company, there's some serious danger in that, is there not?
Absolutely. The risk is something that you do not want to consider.
The other thing that you guys are subject to and very keen to is fraud.
Correct.
And so, you want to have your money handled by a third-party fiduciary, which you guys are, of course. And even at that, we have challenges, don't we?
Yes. And the one thing, again, like Cindy said, it's for the title policy is not for the future. So let's say you do make your purchase and somebody fraudulently tries to sell your property. That's not something that title policy is going to cover.
Right.
You would be in the courts trying to get that resolved. So there's different ways people are trying to protect their property after the purchase is made. But yes, there's fraud, and it's something that you have to be very well aware of and try to be aware of, because it is happening.
Right, and that also goes for cyber security,
Oh, yes.
which is a big thing on wire transfers. And if you're a buyer, a seller for that matter, but buyers are at particular risk because they're doing a lot of wiring. Be sure, I mean, you guys don't even hand that wiring information out. You've got to talk to the people, don't you?
Yeah, it used to be in the day that we'd be, Craig would call and say, I need wiring instructions for my buyer, and we're so absolutely, and would send it to you. And no longer can we or do we do that. It's something that we have to go directly to the buyer,
Right.
verify the information, make sure we're getting them the correct wire instructions, call them back, verify that they did receive them and that they do have the correct banking information, because it happens. And
Right, yes, and we had an incident in our Helena office for $250,000.
Exactly.
And it's because somebody got an email that said, oh, changing up programs, and no, you need to be talking with the title company at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And this fraudulent buying and selling of property too, because so you and I had a conversation. I don't know that we had a conversation. I left you a phone message. This is a good story, so you want to stay on for this one. Yeah, I talked to the guy that actually owns the property, and no, he is not selling it.
Right.
And it's currently on the market because I went through all the mumbo jumbo, which was real, but I didn't get a hold of the real owner until later. And what I did is that I went on Forewarn and found his number assigned to him. The other number that I was working with was nowhere to be found. So that was one hint there. Plus there were several others that I won't discuss in order to tip my hand. But that does happen as well.
Right.
And we have to be vigilant about that. Anything else you think that would be important that the average Joe would want to know or need to know?
Well, Cindy is a wealth of information. She's been here for 38 years.
38, the same amount of time I've been on the other end.
There you go,
Yeah.
Craig.
So it's our pleasure. We love working with Craig and Exit Realty, and if it's something that that if you have a question, reach out to Craig, and he'll give us a call to answer those questions. But really ask away, because it's important that you have peace of mind during the whole process. But is there anything on a final as far as title policy?
I would say read the commitment, make sure you understand. If you have questions, pick up the phone, call us. We're available between 8 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
We send out a copy of the documents with the commitment, so you have a copy of the document also to review.
Right.
Worst case scenario is maybe you want an attorney to look at it.
Right, and that's something you guys would say. I mean, because if somebody says, well, what does this mean? Well, you really need to have legal advice on that, and this is true for on the real estate side as well. Attorneys play their role. Sometimes I say that it's a role that will really boggle things up. But
True.
for my attorney friends, and you know who you are, of course, my father said, if you ever have a problem and you get an attorney, you have 2 problems. but we're going to be nice to our attorney friends today, and you do want to have those folks review those documents and title policies. I review them for my clients. I always do suggest if they don't understand, they can call you, and you may have an easy answer, or you may, in fact, say you need to seek legal advice on that.
Correct.
Okay, and so yeah, that is a word to the wise. I know I look at them and I'll say, I don't see any red flags, but that doesn't mean there isn't something lurking out there. I mean, even the best attorneys can sometimes miss little nuances. And sometimes a title person is going to know a hell of a lot more than the attorney, but you also have to be careful about your liabilities as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it very much. We appreciate
Thank you.
Tammy and Cindy.
Thanks.
And if you do have questions, leave them in the comments down below. And I'll get back with you. We're always in comments back and forth. So title insurance and that whole function is very important in a real estate transaction, and something that we're not going to discuss today, but we may at some point come back and talk about some of your other services like 1031 exchange and those sorts of things. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next video.
Thank you.
Thank you.